Hello, everyone. My name is Ryan Embree, host of The Sweet Spot. Thank you so much for joining us. We are having a brand new series here. I am so excited about this. So if you've been following The Sweet Spot before, we've been doing our TMG Hospitality Trailblazers series that's all about the people and hospitality management companies that are pushing our industry forward into the future, 2024 and beyond. But I am very excited about our new series that we just launched, and I think we have just the perfect guest and hotel, a part of this Sweet Spot Spotlight series. So to give you a little bit of background, this Sweet Spot Spotlight series are showcasing and highlight some of our industry's most unique and iconic hotels across the nation, across the globe. And I think we have such a fitting guest for our first ever edition of the Sweet Spot Spotlight series. Ashish Verma, Senior Vice President of the Luxury Division, Unbound Collection. Ashish, welcome to the Sweet Spot.
Thank you so much, Ryan. What an exciting introduction. And to be the first guest for the sweet spot, which definitely hits a sweet spot with me.
Excellent. Yeah, we might steal that catchphrase from you there, Ashish. But tell us where you're coming from, because again, and we know that the people make this industry, but this Sweet Spot Spotlight series is all about, again, the most iconic hotels that we have. Where are you joining us from?
I'm based in New York. It's my hometown. I'm in the heart of Manhattan. I was born and raised in India, so a great culture of hospitality.
Yes.
I developed my career with Oberoi Hotels, one of the finest in luxury hospitality. And then I moved with Hyatt International, the very best, and I worked with them in India, in France, where I did my higher studies, my MBA in Paris, and I worked with Hyatt again there. And I moved to Park Hyatt, the original UN Plaza here in New York. Went on to work with a great hotel company, Orient Express, as a GM down in New Orleans through Hurricane Katrina and beyond. Returned to New York, my hometown, and I was a GM at the Lowell. And I've been in charge of the Chatwal, New York luxury division for a little bit over 8 years.
And so your story is the true embodiment of hospitality is worldwide, right? And I'm sure you've seen just some incredible places, incredible hotels. So tell us a little bit about, this iconic and historic hotel, the Chatwell. Um, this fits the bill of being just a timeless property. Can you give us, we shared your hospitality experience. Share a little bit of history of this specific property.
Yes, global hospitality being global goes hand in hand. There are some great hotels around the world, and we all have a bucket list to experience and travel around the world. And the world has become a little microcosm of our own aspirations. And luxury at the very finest embodies that, expresses that, offers that. And I'm fortunate between Asia, Europe, and the US here in New York, having experienced some of the best. Uh, where we are now in the heart of Manhattan, there is a lot of history where the Chatwal, New York is. First, this was called the Great White Way. Electricity first came to New York here, Great White Way, near the Broadway, near the theaters. It was also called the Club Row. This is where the most iconic clubs are. Our building is an iconic building built by Stanford White, one of the most famous American architects. He built it in 1905, found by Mr. Charles Lamb, a British gentleman who had a club for the thespians in London, and he wanted to found one here in New York. So this is actually the first thespian club of America, found as Lamb's Club, named after Charles Lamb, and the iconic Stanford White, who's done Madison Square Garden, some of the most well-recognized landmark buildings across the U.S. The club row element is so amazing because we have the most iconic clubs here on this street on 44th. Yale Club, Princeton Club, Harvard Club, Cornell Club. So all the Ivy clubs are here. The Lambs Club is here. So between the White Way, the Club Row, the historic Stanford White, Lambs Club, next to the Theater District, which I call the original art form of New York. What jazz is to New Orleans, what movies are to Hollywood, Broadway theaters is to New York. So we are really in the heart of Manhattan.
Wow. Wow, it's a fantastic story, and honestly, I'm sure there's so much more just things that have happened at the property that's contributed to its historic nature and what makes it so timeless. I'm curious. At the core of the Sweet Spot, this really is a hospitality marketing podcast. I'm sure each room in that property, you can tell me a story about Ashish, and there being some sort of culture and history there. How do you make sure that that's conveyed to your guests when they step on property? Just know how special, even the little that you just shared with me about its history, how that's conveyed to your guests before they step into the lobby.
Well, it starts with marketing. Obviously, we have great product, great location, great service, and reputation. We have a very good marketing team between our public relations and marketing, our website, our company. We make sure our travelers know about the Chatwal. Ultimately, I think it's the experience. Once somebody experiences the Chatwal, they invariably will return. And they are the right elements too. We're fortunate between the location, the history, the designer architect. When the Lambs Club was changed to be a Chatwal Hotel, Thierry Despont was engaged as interior decorator designer, who's one of the best in the world. He did the 45 Park Lane in London, the Ritz in Paris, Hotel Crillon in Paris, and the Chatwal New York. So we are in the best league of luxury hotels. On the suites, what he created an opportunity for us to highlight luxury, because luxury is more than just the product or the experience per se.
Mm-hmm.
It is also what you offer in terms of various elements to experience. And suites accentuate that very much, and Thierry afforded us that sort of hardware for us to work and embellish the Chatwal with the suites.
Now, one of the things we talk about on this podcast is the implementation of technology, Ashish. And with such a historic feel to your property, right? It might feel weird having an iPad in a room. Right? You were just talking about the design of the architecture of this building, and then all of a sudden, there's this modern piece of technology there, but some guests might want that a part of the hotel experience. So how do you find that balance there of implementing technology, but also staying true to your roots as a historic and iconic hotel?
A very good question, Ryan, because the timelessness aspect on design, on decor, and history applies, but we must evolve with times and context with technology and the convenience and the expectations of our guests and travelers. Towards that, our design is actually Art Deco, which is timeless to begin with. A bit older demographics find it nostalgic, find it classic and elegant. A bit middle age or even younger find it more retro, more chic, more cool, more stylish. So, in that sense, we are timeless. Particularly on technology, we have a facility that from your iPads, we have iPads in every accommodation. You have controls for heat, light, and power, even for drapes. We do as much as possible towards being paperless. So on the iPads, we have press readers, so you can choose in various languages our travelers from around the world. So we incorporate controls, we incorporate the dimmers, we incorporate the technology to even open the drapes automatically. In context with technology, we don't miss the personalization, but absolutely the most convenient, most modern aspect of technology go hand in hand, not substituting personalization, but only complementing it.
Absolutely. Yeah. You don't want to do anything to take too much away from that guest experience, but enhance it. But I think you're right. It's about the guest experience and the expectation, which I'm going to ask you about here in a minute. But you mentioned reputation and a property, a luxury hotel like the Chatwal, New York. It has its reputation. You just hear the word or the name and but you also have to stay in tune with the traveler of today, right? And you have to keep that reputation because there's a lot of other older hotels that might have the reputation but don't have the reputation today. So what are the types of things that you and your team, Ashish, are doing day in and day out at the Chatwal, New York, to keep that reputation relevant and fresh with new feedback online on like review sites that talk about what that experience is today?
Reputation is first hard earned. So I give credit to my team, which has been working so diligently and passionately. We select very carefully and we train and encourage and have a culture of excellence and never being complacent in the context of what we've achieved. That's history, that's behind us. So each year, the glories, the awards, the recognition, the reputation which we have is ultimately, with all acknowledgement and pride, a little bit in the past. So just yet as of yesterday. So we start afresh, and reinventing ourselves, remaining relevant to the guest is so important. We want to learn as much as possible about our guests. So a guest relations manager, pre-arrival, doing a lot of research on the guest. With 76 keys, out of which 33 are suites, we can really bespoke. I know that word is almost a cliche. A lot of words can be in luxury hospitality in our size, boutique luxury even more so. But we really understand the guest, their needs, their purpose, whether it's business, whether it's vacation, whether it's special occasion, uh, family members, any likes and dislikes. So towards that, we are constantly reinventing and making sure. Vis-a-vis the competition, we have our strengths, we have a uniqueness. We highlight that consistently. Our location, our suites, some of the key elements which we have is butler service. That's almost a dying art. But
Yeah.
we actually thrive on it. We do a lot of details with our butler services and anticipating. So classic hospitality with all the modern amenities, and we hope that you will keep the competition on their toes.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I love what you said at the very beginning. It almost is kind of like a sports analogy in a sense of last season was last season. Let's keep looking ahead. And that's the kind of, that's what you need at a property like this, where you're just kind of pushing yourself because you don't want to get too complacent because the historical reputation's there, but it's what you can do right now. And I think that is a lost art right now, and something we definitely need to take away from this, and what we try to share with our listeners of really taking a look at your guests and the feedback that they're leaving you, any sort of research that you can do to make a guest stay memorable, right? And figuring out what likes, dislikes. It seems like you guys are checking off all the boxes over there at the Chatwal, New York. Um, I want to talk about setting expectations. You mentioned it before. Uh, I'm sure the guest experience has evolved. We talked about it. Something that was as simple as expectations for breakfast now has completely changed. Some hotels are even saying you got to call down if you want daily service. I'm wondering, from what I see, you guys are really doubling down on that guest experience and personalizing it. You use that word personalization. Can you speak a little bit more about what you and your team are doing over there to evolve the guest experience to even greater heights right now?
Yes, without giving any trade secrets, right?
Right. That's true.
The essence of hospitality is not the business per se, right? We are maximizing the guest experience and the results take care of themselves, so to speak. So each morning we have a morning meeting. Each arrival we go over what accommodation is assigned to them, who's traveling, whether they're first time guests or they repeat guests, what are their likes, what are their dislikes. And we make sure that to the detail, we are obsessive about. We say we are OCP, obsessive, compulsive, perfectionists. So here we want to get every accommodation, every guest, without exaggeration, gets a handwritten note. They get amenities at a certain rate level, which we will adjust, but we make sure that what we know historically and as much as we can learn is carried out by a guest relations manager, is carried out by our butlers and each and every team member. While they're here, we are not just saying you checked in, you got the amenities. There is sort of a consistent interaction with our team. During their stay, we will make sure we'll check with them how their stay is. And we have certain elements where between the restaurant and our spa, the wellness center, we can interact with them a fair bit. So the concierge, the guest relations manager, the team in the front office, our sales team, myself, we have this constant interaction to keep learning and making sure they are being catered to and we are exceeding their expectations.
Yeah. And those guest touch points are so important, right? You might not be the Chatwal, New York on this listening to this podcast, but to be able to go to a guest at different points of their stay, because, there are so many places where things could either, improve the guest experience or they come across something that kind of challenges them in their guest experience from having that perfect stay. Checking on them at different places, whether it's the F&B restaurant, whether, obviously we always try to get someone at checkout, but becomes a lot more difficult now with mobile check-in and checkout with some hotels. But trying to find those personalization, those interactions, definitely, and using that feedback, right, that you're hearing, looking for patterns and trends can definitely set you on a path to improve that guest experience and elevate it, as we were talking about there. Now, Ashish, I keep wanting to get back to this because, again, it sounds, the Chatwal New York sounds less like a stay and more like an experience, right? And that's what you and your team are striving to put on for a guest that comes in. And I'm sure when someone books with you, it's not one of those last minute bookings. No, they're getting excited. They're getting excited for this stay, and they want to experience everything that you have to offer, but you also want to make sure that you're showing them that you get the butler that will come with your room. How do you do that in that pre-booking phase, right? When people are getting excited about coming up to their trip to the Chatwal New York, how are you making sure that you're showcasing to them everything that your hotel has to offer?
The purpose of our traveler, broadly speaking, in hospitality is business or leisure, they say, right?
Right.
There are certain needs a business traveler has and certain needs the leisure has. So let's start with leisure, for instance. Our location affords them the proximity to the theaters. We invariably have a partnership with some Broadway shows. Right now, we have a partnership, an exclusive partnership with Neil Diamond's A Beautiful Noise. So when you stay with us, you have access to number of amenities and aspects to be able to enjoy that particular show, which comes with certain added amenities on that package, a theater package. Second is wellness. Very few hotels have a proper spa, especially in the heart of Manhattan, and we do. We even have a swimming pool, we have a hot jacuzzi, we have private steam showers and separate treatment rooms, a state-of-the-art fitness center, and we have a wellness butler. Right.
Wow.
We understand we can make appointments with a yoga teacher for meditation, for any physical fitness personal trainer. So those bespoke elements are taken by our wellness butler. So we understand that if you're here for fitness, if you're for wellness, if you're for relaxation, we will guide you towards those aspects. The third is culinary. New York is known for that, and we have a beautiful restaurant, Lamb's Club, at the Chatwal. So we work with the dietary guidelines and make sure that we can create that experience for the guests. So constantly understanding the leisure needs, whether it's anniversaries, a birth anniversary, etc., we'll make sure that's recognized. From the business travelers, there's a lot of efficiency which they expect. So how efficient we are with the check-in, we don't want to spend too much of their time. We provide them certain packages with breakfast and certain conveniences, transportation, so they can conduct their business efficiently. So understanding, preparing. At the arrival stage, a lot of things are implemented. Your question on the pre-arrival, we reach out via emails, we reach out on phones and learn as much as we can, and then the guests are wowed. Sometimes they are booking their stay for their loved ones, so we will execute on their behalf. And then once we learn a little bit more about them, the magic is when they come and see that it's implemented for their stay.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna follow-up question there. Like, what type of reaction do you get when? Because that's not the typical experience, right? Is when you book at a property, someone's reaching out to you pre-arrival and trying to learn more to make your just stay even more memorable. What type of reaction do you get from guests when you do that?
So I've personally done that when I have had some executives, some celebrities will reach out to the right people who are making the reservation, if you will, and I'll say, "Can you tell me a little bit about your boss? Can you tell me a little about who you're making the reservation for?" So if I have the daffodils in their rooms or the peonies, which are their favorite flowers, and it's not just champagne; it's the brand which they like.
Wow.
The best of all is when I'm playing Pink Floyd in the background because that's the music that the band they like. So between music, the senses, and those choices, implementing that gives me personal joy. Our team is excited and committed towards that, and the guests, you can sense it when you look at their smile and their eyes widen up. The best feeling, Ryan, is when they say, "This is home." This is
Yeah.
where I belong, and I'm going to keep returning. That's the most satisfying compliment we can receive as a team.
That is awesome. Yeah, you really want to be that mind reader before they even step on property, anticipating the needs prior to a guest even, even saying it. It's absolutely fantastic, and I find it fascinating that micro segmentation that you do between why they're coming here on leisure. Because you're right, we have business and leisure. Maybe talk about the bleisure after the pandemic, but you guys at the Chatwal New York are really putting under a microscope of what those two segments are, because there are several different leisure aspects to it, because you have so much to offer in your location. You want to make sure that that person understands everything that they have when they arrive on property, all the experiences that they can get in the time that you'll be hosting them. um Absolutely fascinating. So I want, before we wrap up, I want to do, and I'm seeing if this is going to catch on with the Spotlight series, and just some rapid fire questions to get to know you, Ashish, and the property a little bit better. So, um, one of the things when I worked through for several resorts before, is I had that one spot, that favorite view on property. It might have been during a time of day, either sundown or sun up. What's that favorite view for you on property at the Chatwal, New York?
From the Sanctuary Suite, we have 14 suites with terraces, some of the largest suites in New York. I think easily the largest suites, if I may say humbly. The Sanctuary Suite has views of the Manhattan skyline, the north and the east. I think it's a stunning view. They can be our guests who might prefer the views from Zen Suite, also the rooftop producer suite, the Chatwal Suite, and the Garden Suite. So great views of the Manhattan skyline. My personal view, the Sanctuary Suite.
What's your what? Yeah, I don't have this question on here, but what's your favorite suite
Sanctuary Suite is my favorite, and I suppose it has something to do with the view as
with
well.
that view? Yeah, can't beat that. Well, what about fun fact on the property? I'm sure you've just got a head full of facts as far as everything there is, its history. What's that one fun fact that kind of moves the needle for you?
We have, get ready for this, we have 37 nationalities at the chat wall from the ethnic background,
Oh,
if you
wow.
will. Of course, we're all Americans. So we have 39, national backgrounds,
Yeah.
and we have 46 languages spoken amongst the team. So their history, their background, the great country that we are, the melting pot in New York. So that's a fun fact for me because we are so diverse and so committed as a team. We celebrate a great nation and a great city with all that diversity coming together towards excellence and integrity.
That is amazing. Have you had to use at one point, have we had to use all of those languages so far with get on guests?
I don't believe all of them would have been used, but I'm curious now that you asked. But yes, some are used more regularly, of course,
Yeah.
within the guest arrival. Some perhaps much less.
Yeah, we'll have to do a follow up on that on
Yes.
the next episode there. You talked about the cuisine, right? How New York, people might even travel there, just that there's that microcosm of a segment of leisure travel, cuisine and dining. What's the favorite signature dish at the Chatwal, New York for Ashish?
For Ashish, going through the appetizers, the main courses, the best part of the meal, personally for me, is the dessert. So my signature favorite dish is the chocolate mousse. However, if guests do want to know a good favorite starter of mine, then I say the tuna tartare. For the main courses, for lunchtime, I like salmon a lot, grilled salmon. That's excellent. Some nice vegetables, seasonal vegetables. And then also halibut at dinner time is excellent. The chef's very talented, J.J. Vasquez and Sarah, for the lunch. And the overall team is really fantastic. But when it comes to desserts, and I want to emphasize on that, being a sweet taste as well.
Ah, there we go.
Chocolate is one, but some other great options. So you can really have a great meal at the last stop at the chocolate.
That's fantastic. I've never put that correlation together. I might have to throw that in there for a new segment there. And what about favorite piece of art? This is the last one, but I worked at a property that just had these really, really great pieces of art. And I know each one has a story there. What's your favorite piece of art on property?
We are a historically preserved building. Our facade is a landmark itself. We have many elements, a historic fireplace from 18th century in the restaurant. We have a fire mantle in the foyer area. We have a war mural, which is historically preserved. It's dedicated to our war heroes who served our country in World War One and World War Two. We have a beautiful library, the original landscape library restored, now called the Stanford White Room. My personal favorite artwork historically is the fire mantle in the foyer area of the hotel. So when you arrive into the foyer area before you go up the elevators, it's amazing woodwork with some nice ram heads and a beautiful place for the fire, and a mantle where we have a beautiful clock, which works efficiently and is a classic masterpiece. In addition to that, in the modern era, if you will, after we repositioned the product quite a bit, we created lots of different suites. And the Hollywood suite has my favorite actress of all time, Ingrid Bergman, an artwork I picked up myself of her, and we have many other stars in the Hollywood suite. So I'd say Ingrid Bergman in the Hollywood suite, and of course the fire mantle in the foyer area.
It's just absolutely fabulous. We spent almost half an hour now talking about this one property, and we've gone through, so many suites, so many pieces of the guest experience, and just taking a look at this wealth of knowledge of rich history behind the Chatwal, New York. What's your vision here as we hit the halfway mark in 2023? What's your vision for the property in 2024 and beyond?
We are very excited as part of Unbound Collection by Hyatt, a company which is so well respected and recognized internationally. The Chatwal, New York is poised for greatness. Past is history. The team is very committed, team is very passionate. We are actually, as we speak, creating two new wellness suites. So I'm really excited about that. We have 14 suites with terraces. We celebrate the gems, which is ruby, topaz, and emerald. We celebrate the iconic elements of the Chatwal Suite, Zen Suite, Garden Suite. We have three iconic in the front facing north, and then a southern exposure with the Garden Suite, and the rooftop is producer and director suite. Wellness is an increasing need of the guest, and that's more and more welcome. And we position ourselves as the only resort in Manhattan. So these two wellness suites are called the Shanti Suite and the Prema Suite, which in Sanskrit means peace and love. Shanti is peace,
Wow.
and Prema is love. So I'm really excited on focusing a lot on wellness in the near future, continue to personalize and bespoke the guests, and make sure across our demographics we remain the most preferred hotel in the heart of Manhattan. So I'm really looking forward to 2024 to be a record year for us. As we have done in the past, keep our positioning at the very highest, but one guest at a time.
Absolutely. Well, excited to see, and not a detail missed, from the from the theme of the rooms to anticipating the needs of the guests, which we talked a lot about on this episode as well. Being that you have that wellness butler, maybe me and you, Ashish, need to get a consultation from him after we share the chocolate mousse at the Chatwal, New York. So, Ashish, thank you so much for joining me here on this podcast. Absolutely love spending some time with you and learning about this property that you can clearly hear the passion and love in your voice when you talk about it. And I'm sure that is expressed to your guests in many different ways. So thank you so much for joining the Sweet Spot.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity on behalf of the Chatwal champions who I represent, who I'm so proud of. We are honored and we look forward to welcome you to the Jewel of Manhattan. Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you. All right. And thank you all for listening to the Sweet Spot. We will talk to you next time. Thank you.